All right, and welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. My man Anthony Schlegel is here with me, and we're excited, folks, because this is the first show that we're going to be doing August 19th, the Daily Show, 12:30 every single day during the week, giving you all the college information that you need from Buckeyes, college football. There'll be some tertiary topics. There's all kinds of things in there that we're going to be sharing. So a lot of you have already been following along, watching on YouTube, some watching on Bally's. Please like, subscribe, continue to follow. We'll get some good guests on here for you, get some Buckeyes, get some national guests as well to talk about the college football landscape and everything that is going on around the country. But first, Legs, talking about a little bit about Ohio State's training camp. What's going on? Last week, Will Howard, since our last show, it happened, I believe, on Thursday, Ryan Day at a press conference announcing Will Howard officially as the starting quarterback at Ohio State. It seems kind of expected. I don't think it's surprising. There was a nice battle. Some of the things Ryan said about last year where he said at this point he thought Devin was going to be the starter. So that may have been the most newsworthy thing that I saw come from all of this. But with all of that happening, kind of what are your thoughts on it?
So Will came in, and I was very fortunate enough to be there when he did. And, 245 pounds, just coming from a different program, nothing against programs, but like he just came in, he was a bigger guy and he knew he needed to lose some weight. He knew, and he's a fast kid anyways. Like you saw the stuff that he was able to do.
He was like you. He was in the portal when you didn't have the portal, but transfer time is like coach free, hang out, everything's all good.
Hey man, this is a different. First off, Will's a lot different than I am, right? He wasn't old school drinking Bud Heavies and chicken wings in Metroflex gym. He was still training, but he comes in. Here's the best part about Will. He came in and he just bought into the culture right away. Number one thing that I saw, he was just all about work, all about new things. And you saw that progress, and then went through spring football. Again, now you're picking up a new offense. You got a new offensive coordinator in Chip Kelly. And there were some things coming out of spring that he had to work on. The coaches, and that's the best thing about spring football when you're in collegiate athletics, is you're able to give the guys like, hey, here is where you are and here is where you need to be going into camp and to get through camp to be determined as to if you're the starter or not, or playing time regardless. Okay? He was able to go do that. He commands the huddle very well. The things that he did, to me, looking at it, veteran guy, knows how to win a conference championship because he did that at Kansas State. And to me, he's a chain mover type of guy. He is a leader. He didn't have to necessarily say you're the starting quarterback to lead in drills. He just did it with his presence in the weight room and just showing up and going to work and encouraging your teammates. That's what you want from a quarterback. And I would say this too, that quarterback room does a really nice job of encouraging one another while also competing within the power of the unit. That's why I think everybody has gotten better at this point. So I'm excited that Ryan was able to determine this early, because last year it was a little bit later. But now that you're unequivocally the starting quarterback, I think you can move forward faster. And that's why I like this move with Will Howard right now.
Yeah, I think there's some truth with that. It kind of solidifies the team, if you will. Yeah, it allows everybody to come together, get behind that common leader. And plus, you can then begin to work offensively, Schlegs, on what this guy does really well, and then begin to plan for Akron, plan for Western Michigan, plan for Marshall. Now, the non-conference, I think, gives them a lot of leeway to where you can kind of figure some things out on the fly. Last year, obviously, you had Notre Dame the last couple of years right off Jump Street. So when you have the big non-conference game in the first game or two, third game, like you've got to be ready to go and be ready to fly. And you can figure some things out, but you got to be locked in, and you want to know what you're good at and what your guy feels confident and comfortable in. So for Will, that I think was a big piece for him. Getting a chance, obviously, to be able to do that. That was huge. Very, very excited for him with that situation. Also, got a little bit of news, the offensive line. Like that's something they've been kind of battling for a while, trying to figure out who that right guard is going to be. And they've had this sickness thing in their Schlegs where, those guys have been kind of bouncing around a little bit. So with this, one of the things that's funny, they had some like kids illnesses flowing through them. It looks a little bit, I feel like Tegra Shabola is probably got the lead at that right guard now, probably maybe get the first crack. We'll see how that shakes out. Carson Hinsman, obviously one of the other guys that has been really competing hard as of late. And we'll see where all this goes. But I think right now I'd feel more confident that Tegra will be that guy, but they still have some more time. And let's be honest, playing guard isn't quite like playing quarterback. So there's the ability to maybe rotate some guys in. You want to have that continuity up there, but it also isn't going to hurt quite as bad.
Well, here's the thing, guys. 2004, we rushed, or excuse me, last year, 2023, we rushed for 4.2 yards per carry. That's the worst since 2004. That's terrible.
Yeah.
When you're Ohio State.
That's terrible.
And that's why I'm not saying that's the deciding factor as to why Will Howard is the starting quarterback. I think Will's going to be phenomenal because now he can. At Kansas State, Will had to be the Superman.
Yeah.
Now you don't. You got to be. You're the assist man. You're the point guard on the field because you got Trevion, you got Q, you got all the wide receivers in the world, you got tight ends. Like you just distribute the ball and take care of the ball and also move the chains. Now, when you go look at this choice, and again, Tegra, to me right now, like this is the deciding year for Coach Fry and Chip Kelly's first year to be able to evaluate him into what does this line do moving forward. We've already talked about some of the misses on the offensive line in recruiting. And there's a guy that just got his black stripe off, Ian Moore. I absolutely love Ian Moore. I think Ian Moore is going to be an alpha dog. And they got some twins, the Armstrong twins from St. Ed's, that are freaking dudes, man. Okay, so I'm twin dudes, not Twin Peaks, Bob, twin dudes. Anyways, that being said, here's the thing. They were talking about Tegra, and I'm going to give you guys a snippet. There was a guy here that played Andrew Norwell. Andrew Not
the White Rhino?
No. He was the White Buffalo. It was Tatanka. I gave that name a long time ago. He was 6'8", but he was a mauler. And Chip's kind of comments about Tegra was this, and that he is a big man and he wants big men to move smaller people. Like he just wants that. And he's long. He is long, man. So the ability to bend and get to the second level, right? That's a competitive advantage. To me, this is all I want to see. All I want to see from our offensive line. I want to see alphas. I want to see gas station ready. They know it. I've talked to them about it. I want to see Fryer. I want to see Donnie. I want to see Josh, right? And I want to see Seth and whoever the guard is. Listen, man, gas station freaking ready, right? Leave no doubt. Take them out every play. You rushed for 4.2 last year. Like, what are you going to do this year with the backs that we got, the quarterback that we got? What are you going to do? That's all I care about. And it should be against Akron. It should be against Oregon. Like, that's why I like these early premier matchups. I want to go see who the alpha dogs are early and often. And then, like, go. We talked about this a long time ago, Bob. Yep. I think at some point in that middle 2010-ish, right, like the latter part of 2000, 2010, I thought, kind of threw the helmet out there at the line of scrimmage and it said we're good enough. I want to see consistency up front, both sides, that we are the alphas of college football. That's it. That's all I want to see. That's all I care about. And honestly, that's how I'm going to grade them the entire year because I think that they want that, but now the pressure's on them.
It is going to be on them, but you mentioned you got Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Peoples. They've got some pretty nice running backs, and then Will is going to be that lead quarterback. Ryan came out and said he's going to be the starter against Akron. That's who they open up with. Last year, they waffled a little bit and got Devin some work. Now, and here's the thing, Schleich, you got to realize this. I can't imagine a scenario where Will Howard is playing the entirety of the game week 1, week 2, week 3. If he is, that's a bad situation for Ohio State.
For sure.
I would like to believe that you're going to have at least many of the starters out, one or series into the second half. And so with that, who's that second quarterback coming in? How do you leave the starting receivers and O-line with them in for a series or two? Like, how does that all play out? And so that's one of the things that as we see Will Howard being the starter, how is that going to progress and how are they going to monitor that here through the entirety of the time?
Well, as you go through these things and assess that, right? Like that's the hardest part of camp is assessing a really good defense versus, the backup offensive line and another quarterback, right? That's why you have to rotate them so you have good on good so I can actually have reps. So that being said, I don't know how they're going to do it. But again, we saw in 2014, you're a third string quarterback when you a national title. Those guys have to get mental reps. When called upon, they got to be able to go respond. And I don't know how it's going to look. It's going to be like, hey, this person might need more reps to feel comfortable. So it might be some twos in with some ones. They're going to have to figure it out. But at the end of the day, when you're playing against those teams, it's about execution. I don't care who's out there. Go freaking execute. And that's what you're going to want to see. Doesn't matter. I would say this, the depth of our skill position, you're good. Like, you don't have to have the ones, man. Our twos are 1As, right? Or ones anywhere else in the country. It's just a fact. So, but you have to have that depth going into a 12-game season and then going into a college football playoffs. You have to have.
Well, you need the depth, Schlegs, like you said. Trust used to always say it. I hear coaches now everywhere saying it. A pair and a spare, if you can get one of those, you'll be in a good situation. That's a lot of depth that you need to have. You always talk about girth being just as important, Schlegs, so we'll see if they can have the breadth, the width there as well to go out and play. But you look at the receiver room, they've got pretty decent depth. They've got really talented guys at the top, still looking a little bit for the rest of the receivers. Running back, cluster of depth, only 4 scholarship running backs right now. O-line, they probably have 8 guys you feel pretty good about, still trying to find the one starter. Defensively, I think they have mountains of depth. Yeah. D-line, still working to develop some young guys at linebacker. Secondary, I think they feel really good about it as well. So they should be in a really good spot. They had a scrimmage. Go ahead.
Now, our key to the D-line is going to be interior D-linemen. And again, the hardest people in the country.
K-Mac.
Right? K-Mac, but you have Tyrone. You have a bunch of guys there. Jason. You have some guys that are fighting for some opportunities because you have Ty and you have Tyleek, right? They're your guys, but they can't play 1,000 reps, guys. They can't play it. So, again, being able to rotate those guys, we saw that we talked about last year, how some of our guys were in there for a long period of time. You got to give them a spell. Who are going to be those guys? But the only reason they're going to put you in is they can trust you. That's on the leadership, right? But it's also on the coaches to develop them.
Buckeyes, get that done. They had a scrimmage on Saturday. A lot of situational work, third downs, 2-minute Schlegs. After the scrimmage was all over, they announced captains. They announced the Block O. We'll let you know who was nominated, who won the Block O, and more thoughts on that here next on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby as Authentic takes them around the far turn. 'Tis the Laws making his move now, and they're into the stretch. These two stride for stride. Authentic, 'tis the Law. Here's the wire. Authentic has won the Kentucky Derby.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
All right, welcome back in to the Bobby Carpenter Show here. We appreciate you guys tuning in. It's the Daily. We'll be live for you each and every day here at 12:30. You know, it's like Aaron L. Bally's here in the evening, so you're watching there as well. We really appreciate it. Ohio State, 4 captains named, 2 offense, 2 defense. Usually you see a pretty even breakdown like this. Historically, I've always been kind of for a 3 to 5 guy captain, and maybe even as few as 2, depending. I've always been a player voting for captains, not coaches picking them because it's the players' team. Those guys should have a say in who it is, and they're the ones that have to follow them and respect that leadership. And so my dad, he coached high school football for 30 years, and he would always say, you'll see where their delineation is, where it ultimately drops off, whether that's after 2 guys, 3, 4, sometimes 5, where all of a sudden there's a cluster of guys that are all together and then a fall. So this year Ohio State has 4. Urban used to always have like 7, 8, 9 guys. It's different. I'm not necessarily anti that. I'm more for the traditional captains, but they had Travion Henderson, Emeka Ibuka on offense. On defense, Cody Simon, Jack Sawyer. Cody Simon was the Block O. award winner, which means he'll wear the 0. When the NCAA opened that up about 5 or 6 years ago, Ohio State said they wanted to do something. Since that 0 looks like a block O, we're going to do that of the block O to honor Bill Willis, who wore number 99, NFL Hall of Famer, one of the first African-American players to play in the NFL, tremendous player at Ohio State, and played for the Cleveland Browns as well. So that's in honor of him and someone that exemplifies toughness, hard work, after like all the intangibles that you want. And so that was Cody Simon this year as well. When you hear those names, Schlegs, what are your thoughts? What comes to mind?
Well, Cody is one of my favorite players on the team. One, he's Cody, but he's also very similar in personality and makeup and size of James. It's really funny. And you mentioned it earlier, except for the ears, right, which are unequivocally James. But Cody's going to be successful in anything, and he is a leader. He is a competitor. He is everything good about Ohio State football. So fired up that he was able to receive that honor and be in the Block O. Emeka is the consummate pro. He will have a fantastic NFL career. He looks the part. He acts the part. He is the gel that holds that room together. And you got to also think about this. That room is full of 5-star dudes. How do you have a room full of 5-star dudes that don't just like squabble for the shakes of Longshank's table, right? The scraps, because there's only one football.
Yeah.
And we got 4 running backs that are dudes, 2 that could potentially be high draft picks, and a quarterback that also runs, and there's one football, right? In a group of 5 stars. He's kind of that glue that holds it all together because he understands the bigger picture because he was around that with all the first-round draft picks and competitive excellence. He knows that. He is Heartline's voice in the locker room and on the sideline. Jack Sawyer, Columbus guy, I want you to expand upon him. Super fired up for him and means a lot, especially being from here. And then Trevion, I thought was, fantastic because the guys got to see Trevion, one, his growth and everything that he's done spiritually, but also the way he's handled Q coming in, right? The leading rusher in the SEC now coming on board with you and their competitive excellence within themselves. And in that room, he's done a phenomenal job. So, I want to hear you talk about it. I got another nugget, too, for you.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you want to talk about humility, number one, your guy that you're going to get into right there is Travion Henderson because he came in here. He was the man. You're asked to bring Quinshon Judkins in. Ryan calls him. Yeah, bring him on. And I'm going to be honest, he had a big-time freshman year. His sophomore year, a little bit wayward, had some injuries. And to watch his growth over the last couple of years, like, honestly, I thought he would leave after 3 years, Schlegs. No, not a question in my mind, his sophomore year. And honestly, I wasn't going to be all that upset about it. Not that he was a bad guy, but he was quiet, kept to himself. Like, he just wasn't a positive energy dude. And watching his transformation over the last 2 years, phenomenal. He's a guy that you want out there. When they say, hey, can we get better? It may hurt you statistically, but it'll help the team. Hey, I'm all in. Buckeyes, let's go do it. You got to have that. You watch Emeka, the competitive excellence. He's been around great players. He's just all he's done is simply sacrifice, give of himself to the team. Cody Simon. I sat with Cody Simon, Schlegs. I sat with him right beside the Youngkin Success Center having breakfast with him and his parents 5 years ago. And his brother played at Notre Dame, and I jabbed him about that and everything else. And I said, hey, if you come here and do everything that you can do, you're a smart guy. Dad's a West Point guy. Mom works on Wall Street. Like, they're unbelievable family. I go, you'll be successful here. Now, to what degree, I cannot tell you. And I know it was a hard road for him. Wanted to play early, wanted to do this. He's behind Tommy. They moved Steele over. He had a long road to get on there. Learned the whole time, kept working the whole time, kept grinding. And last year, knew both positions. Filled in for Tommy, filled in for Steele. And that versatility and coming back, it's like, dude, this is your team now. This is your defense. Like, you're going to be the guy who's the fifth-year senior who's running this thing from the middle. And you got to run it all season long. You got to run it all off season. We watched him do that. You were a part of that. You saw him in there in the weight room and how impressive that was. And then Jack Sawyer, him being a local guy, being somebody who is – he's kind of the big physical presence. Like, you always have to have a lineman, offensive or defensive lineman, it seems like, as a captain, because you need somebody that's kind of physically imposing, that can lean in a little bit on everybody else. And I feel like Jack can be that guy. He's a local guy. That defensive line unit is incredibly strong. And so he's going to really help round all that out.
Yep.
Now, it's interesting, Schlegs, as we talk about this. We had 4 captains our senior year in 2005, heavy senior team, especially on defense.
Yeah.
Bob Sims and Nick Mangold, 2 O-linemen that we had as captains, then Nate, Sally, and AJ. And Ryan Day pointed out this. He's like, just because you're not a captain, that doesn't mean you're not a leader. And I always go to the old adage, since we're pulling out Braveheart quotes today, men don't follow titles, they follow courage.
Yes.
And like Lathan Ransom, JT as well, Donovan Jackson, Fryer, like these guys, Denzel Burke, who's made unbelievable transformations too. Like all of those guys are still leaders. Just
Yes.
you're not wearing a C, that doesn't take away from that. And so that's going to be the challenge, to watch those guys, how every one of them, Schlegs, finds their niche. And they've done that through the offseason and continue to grow, making sure they can control that locker room and ultimately have the season that they want to have.
Yeah, IGB is another one, right? And we were the same thing. Like, being a captain is one of the greatest honors I've ever received when I was named captain at the Air Force Academy. And you're at Ohio State, and I wasn't a captain. But, Bob, you're a leader. I'm a leader. Regardless of what you do, people are watching you, especially when you play. I'm just highlighting IGB, and you already touched on Lathan. And Denzel's done a phenomenal job and has really led that BIA. And even Caleb, just transferring in. Like, it doesn't matter how long you've been here. I was a transfer too. It doesn't matter how long you've been wearing the scarlet and gray. They're all into the culture. They're all into being a Buckeye. You're going to be a leader. And how do you set that tone? Well, you do it by your work. You do it by the way you prepare. You do it by the way that you practice. IGB is one of those guys where his intensity and his competitiveness on the field juices everybody else up, man. Like, you can tell, like, we're having a day-to-day, boys. Like, it's early in practice. We're having a day. He's got his, like, jersey all tucked up, and he's just wiry, long. He's 6'1", right? Abs showing, and he's just competing his face off. You know it's going to be a day, right? Then you guess who else has won? J.J. Smith's won. Carnell Tate's won. Brandon Ennis is one. Like, that's where the offseason, right? That's where the offseason is so critical, and how I was against guys enrolling early, but now I'm not, once I got to see just basically the submersion into the culture from them. But the way you value somebody to begin the process is in the offseason and how they handle their work day in and day out. Then you get to go do something that you love to do, which is put on the pads and play football. How does that carry over? Are you the same guy in the weight room as you are on the field in terms of your grit and your competitiveness? And if the answer is yes, you're a leader of that team. There's other guys on there, Toby Wilson, Kevin Wilson's son. Like, he's
Nacho
Libre, as I called him. He's phenomenal. Guess what? Not a starter, right? Probably third on the depth chart, going to be playing practice squad. You can be a leader. You got to go give looks. You're a senior. That's leadership, man. And those are the things that I think sometimes get lost in the mix when we evaluate people's success in college athletics. Like, to me, like, Toby's successful because of all the things that he's learning, that he's giving to his teammates, and how he takes that and transfers that probably to be a coach at some point in the future. That's what team sports, that's what football does. It's awesome to see. It's awesome to witness. It's also awesome to be a part of as you develop them.
Absolutely. Well, hey, got captains, got a great group of leaders. This Buckeye team is going to be fun. You're going to want to see all the games, and you're definitely not going to want to miss a game for a wedding. Weddings in the fall, avoid them. There's one date, though, you're going to particularly avoid. Find out what that one is next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Okay, so we're going to go right into the next segment here, Schlegs. We've got weddings in the fall, and going to try to figure all this out. And with everything, number one, what are your thoughts? Like, you got married on Valentine's Day because you said you wanted to make sure.
Let's talk about this. I want to give everybody out there a side nugget tip. Male or female, doesn't matter. Okay. I can remember when I asked my wife out to be my girlfriend. You know the day? Cinco de Mayo. Why? True. I'm from Texas, and I love Mexican food. So guess what? I've been with her for 27 years. I haven't forgot it. Let's go to Pepper's, drink some spicy margs, have some fajitas, como te llama. Okay. Then I asked her out I proposed on December 20th. Her dog's name was Peaches. That's the day that they always gave the dog its pill, but I remembered it because I was there all the time. Peaches. That, as a dog, it was a golden retriever.
Like a stripper, Schlegs.
Yeah, could be, but no, it was a dog. Okay, it was a I think it was a lab golden retriever mix. Anyways, December 20th, I remember it. Boom, got married, and actually the story is this: Tress called her up and said, "Hey, listen, if you don't want your fiance to be kicked out of Ohio State or dead in a drain pool somewhere, I think we need to expedite this wedding and get married earlier." So we took his advice, and we were looking through dates in January and February of 2024, going into my junior year, because she had graduated early from Texas A&M, and she's like picking out dates, like the 21st of January. That would be good. We could do this. I'm like, nope. February 14th. Oh, you're so romantic. Absolutely, I am. No, I kill two birds with one stone, and I never forget it. That's the point, people, right? Think about days that you will always remember. Think about it. Yeah, price it, flowers are a little bit more, but I just buy one set of flowers, guys. It's beautiful, and I'm romantic. It's a great day. Now, we also have to plan accordingly, so we'll go out for our Valentine's meal probably earlier, right? Our wedding anniversary, because it's all packed up on those days. But 20 years in marriage, we don't have to go fancy, man. We'll just take a bonfire and, some takeout.
Yeah, that's all you really need. Okay. So you're against weddings I'm against fall weddings, especially if you're a football family. My dad played, my dad coached, your dad coached for a long time. My brothers all played. I tell people, if you want me to come to your wedding, don't have it in the fall. It's not going to help. It's not going to happen. Like, I have too much other stuff, too many work things. I'll send you a gift. I'll tell you I love you. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Enjoy your wedding. But I'm not going to be able to partake, especially when I was playing, and even now working in the media, Schlegs. We just have so much stuff going on with kids' games, Ohio State games, NFL, all of those things. So here's the thing. October 12th, they said, is one of the most popular wedding dates this year in all of the Saturdays, all 52 or however many Saturdays they are this year. Here's some of the football games that are going on. You ready for this? You ready? Locked in here, big dog?
Locked in.
You've got Ohio State and Oregon. Number one, if you're from Ohio, that's the biggest game on the schedule until you get to Penn State or Michigan. Not even close.
Not even close.
You have Texas and Oklahoma, Red River. Great game. If you're a college football fan, phenomenal. That should eliminate the second biggest state in the country right there. No one should be getting married on Texas, and most of Oklahoma shouldn't either. Ole Miss at LSU. Who's going to want to miss that one if you're from there? It's going to be remarkable. Lane Kiffin, there's a chance for them to get into the CFP this year. Quinshon Judkins came from there. Everything's looking good. Feeling good about the situation. LSU, can their defense get better? If they're any better, they'll be a top 10 team. And then Penn State at USC, one of the nice new matchups that you're going to see in this revised Big Ten. Who looked at that and said, hey, this is a day we want to get married? This would be great. In Columbus, Ohio, if you're in the state of Ohio, 11 million people, and you're going to get married on the Ohio State-Oregon game, I mean, that's literally probably second only to Ohio State-Michigan this year, Schlegs.
Yes. Well, one, that probably means you're a Michigan fan. And so don't be married. Here's how I look at that. One, somebody invited me to that day. I would excommunicado them, right? Straight up John Wick style. They would have to do a blood oath marker for me to get back into for them to get back into my graces. And that's just absolutely garbaggio. Don't do that, right? I'd much rather go in January or the offseason. Like, you have 8 other months to get married in. Like, why not do that? So, but if you look at those games, what Oregon's bringing to the table, you got Dylan Gabriel, another transfer, high-profile quarterback, 2 transfer quarterbacks playing in that game, besides the fact it's 2 versus 3. The shootout, Quinn Ewers, what are they going to do this year? Highly ranked, went to the CFP last year. Ole Miss, I'm looking at Lane Kiffin, and we already talked about, I think it was a couple weeks ago, Bob, about that Florida schedule and what's going on down there. Lane Kiffin might be playing for that CFP, that playoff, and going right and taking that Florida money. Okay, so looking at that gauntlet that Florida has, Like, yeah, he's trying to win the thing, but he's also thinking about that next job, which could be Florida, which could be paying a lot of money. Let's go win this one. And that Penn State USC one, I'm excited about that one because you look at Aller and the rushing attack and the great defense that Penn State plays, going to play in Lincoln Riley, and now in year 3, in the Coliseum. First time that's really going down outside of like a Rose Bowl. And I want to see if with a new quarterback and a revamped defense, how is USC? So from a Big Ten perspective, but also on the national landscape, it's a day that you 100% should get married on. And I would throw this caveat in there. If you get married anytime in the month of November, shame on you, because that's the rut, right? So now we're talking deer hunting. Now that just eliminates a whole other type of population. So one, just don't invite me. I'll just send a card. But I just don't see why you would do that, especially on October 12th.
All right. We're long for a break. We're going to take a quick break here. Coming back, huge honor bestowed on Archie Griffin. And some news, it's been leaked out there, but I don't know if everybody knew the full scope of what's going to be going on. We'll tell you about that here next on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Well, how do they know I'm doing this? Did somebody leak this out?
It's social media.
Oh.
It's just, that's the way social media works now.
I thought maybe you were just running that yap.
Welcome to Big Play, a sports media team that started back in 2014, and now we're not in a garage. Look at us, incorporating some of Cleveland's favorite sports personalities, bringing you fun and compelling content from downtown Cleveland. Coming to you live from the shores of Lake Erie and Burke Lakefront Airport, join Team Big Play for all the best sports talk in Ohio. Check us out on social media at Big Play, bringing you fun and compelling content from downtown Cleveland.
Anthony Schlegel, just how physical he was. You saw the girth and the power and everything he was bringing to the table, especially when he was a nice beefy 255 playing middle linebacker. All right, welcome back into the show here. And Schlegs, I don't even know this. When you win 2 Heisman trophies, that puts you in some rarefied air. Archie Griffin is the only man to have ever done that. He won his first one 50 years ago this season, 74-75. This year, they announced that they're going to be putting a statue of Archie Griffin out at the Rose Bowl. There's only a handful of statues out there. I think they've got one of Keith Jackson. They got one of Brittany Chastain, who obviously won the Women's World Cup. I think in 99 was that? I want to say she hit the PK that ultimately won it. They've got Jackie Robinson out there, a statue of him. Keith Jackson. How about that? And so he's going to be put into that rarefied air and immortalized now outside of it, playing in 4 Rose Bowls, winning 2 Heisman trophies, him getting all that done, man.
Yeah, Bob, you and I have done a lot of philanthropic work with Archie, and he's just a phenomenal human, cares about people, loves Ohio State, loves the great state of Ohio, is a great ambassador, not only for the game of football, but also for the state, and also for the James, Ohio State football, you name it. Like, the man just does it, right? The answer is always yes when it comes to serving other people. And he's somebody that's used his platform in a very mighty way to serve others. And so for him to receive this honor there, it's extremely special, but also it's everything that he exemplifies, just, now showcased out there in Cali at the Coliseum, because, in the arena, right, the gladiators go in there, like the football players, the soccer players, regardless, right? The athletes go in there and do what they do. And he just did it to a different level. It's something that's never been achieved since he played. Hard to do now, especially when you have guys that can leave early, being able to play early and often. We were going back, and I think it was, we were talking about Randy Gradishire, and I think it was Archie's sophomore season, and he was 5th on the Heisman list that year, and then eventually won it the next 2 years. But he's just somebody that's very, very special, and it's awesome that he received this honor. And it's awesome for Ohio State, especially now when you look at the breadth of college football, and now we are a coast-to-coast conference, just shows right there in the Coliseum in Cali, there's a Buckeye that's immortalized and for the accolades that he did in that stadium.
Oh, his accolades are endless. He's remarkable. Like you said, Archie Griffin, the ambassador to Ohio State, is probably even more impressive than Archie Griffin, the player.
Yes.
What he was able to do and how he connected. He was the president of the Alumni Association for a number of years, associate AD at Ohio State for a long time. Anytime you need anything from him, the guy is always there. Now they're putting the statue, they're putting one for him out there at the Rose Bowl. Here's something else, Schlegs, a nugget for you that you may not have known. They're also going to put one now in the north end of the stadium for Archie. So I don't know if it's like a Stargate portal where if you get there, you can shoot out to California, but they're going to have these twin statues, sir, that are going to both be there of Archie Griffin looking all sweet, that Heisman Trophy pose. I think it's going to be a real nice addition on the north side of that stadium.
No doubt. No doubt. It's great because as much as we were talking about naming rights and tradition and all these other things, what always goes into those, and I put out a tweet, I was just commenting to a guy, it's like, isn't this ruining college football? No, you forget this. College football is about the players and it's about the brand. It's not about the other things. It's not about naming rights. We're out there rooting for them, the ones that represent what we love, right? And in this case, Ohio State. It's why you still love Archie, though he hasn't played for multiple decades. You still love him because of what he did on the field and what he did off the field. And I think sometimes that gets lost in what are we doing for like throwback unis or the new, drip or the naming rights or NIL, like bump all that stuff, man. It's always about the players. It's always about the development of them and what they're and us providing the resources that they need to be at their max capacity. So they go out there and represent us, Buckeye Nation, or whoever nation that you want to associate with to the best of their ability.
Absolutely. All right. Talking about players. Always need to get players. We've got Tailgate Talk coming up next, Schlegs. It is our favorite segment that we're going to get to each and every day where we answer your questions. We'll get all that here coming up right next on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the
They're off in the Kentucky Derby as Authentic takes them around the far turn. 'Tis the Laws making his move now, and they're into the stretch. These two stride for stride. Authentic, 'tis the Law. Here's the wire. Authentic has won the Kentucky Derby.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
All right, welcome back in the show. It's our favorite segment we do each and every week, Tailgate Talk. We're going to get interaction with you. So listen, we always tweet some stuff out. You can respond to that on Twitter. You can send in comments to Schlegs and I. We'd love to hear them. Or you can comment right here in YouTube as we go along so we can continue to get that interaction. But Tailgate Talk is brought to you by our friends at Garage Beer. It's the beer that's perfect for any occasion, especially in the summer. Cookout, Garage Beer. Family reunion, Garage Beer. Doing yard work, Garage Beer. Whether you're cruising around in the Ohio River like I do, drink some Garage Beer there as well. Go buy some Garage Beer. It's beer-flavored beer, Schlegs. And you had some yesterday with me.
It was
a little bit of a lime.
I did.
Exotic.
It was nice. It was delicious. I was like, man, I would like some more, but I stopped. Yeah, we were down at Hopefield, man. Like their pizzas were legit. I love the corner pieces. That's all I ate. I was like, that and Garage Beer worked really well.
Fantastic. All right, Schlegs. So Ohio State missed on a couple of offensive line recruits, some big-time guys out of the South. One of them was out of Charlotte. I believe Marshall was his name. He's going to Tennessee. There's kind of Ohio State and Tennessee down at the end. I think proximity mattered a lot in this because people are like, well, more money or this or that. They throw a Justin Fry. You can't recruit him. Like Justin Fry's, I think he's doing fine. Now, he's got to land some of these guys, but I wouldn't say it's exclusive to him not being a good recruiter. He's got to find a way to close up on some of these big guys. But the conversation talking about that is, how do you address the O-line recruiting? You got to think Ohio State's I think they have 10 offensive linemen in the NFL. That's like third or fourth most among all schools. But is there a problem with the Schlegs? Is there a problem with the development? How do you solve potentially this offensive line perceived recruiting problem?
Well, I mean, Bob, I think you were just at an event with Troy raising NIL dollars specifically for the offensive line. Is that correct?
That's true.
But that's not how you do it, guys. It's all about fits. It's about who aligns with our program. And I understand that everybody goes after the stars. And there's a comment that I think it was Troy or somebody else was just commenting about up front. And I mentioned it earlier in it. I don't care about stars up front, because you guys got to remember the offensive line is probably the one unit that requires the most development. Very difficult to start on the offensive line as a freshman. I do really like the Anderson twins. I really, really like Ian Moore. So I thought, like, right there, as far as like those three in this last class have been very, very good. I'm excited to see how they develop and add value on the field. So how do you assess it? One, you can't lose your in-state guys. There's a lot of development here, a lot of great players in the state of Ohio. Can't miss on them. When proximity is an issue or money is an issue, sometimes, guys, it boils down, do you actually want them in the program if they literally are going to go somewhere else for $250,000 more and don't understand all the other things that Ohio State can offer? Like, that's also part of the selling point that I think sometimes we just got to go spend money and get them all. Like, sometimes it's about getting the right guys.
Money's part of it. Proximity is some things you can't change. Fry does a good job developing. Mickey does a great job of developing. Schlegs, you've been a part of it. They will continue to do a good job with that. Hey, we're going to have to hit another break here, Schlegs, coming right up, because we have some quick hitters that we want to bang out here before. And there's some interesting things that you're going to want to hear about your guy, maybe Mr. Jim Harbaugh. We'll get that here next on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby as Authentic takes them around the far turn. 'Tis the Laws making his move now, and they're into the stretch. These two stride for stride. Authentic, 'tis the Law. Here's the wire. Authentic has won the Kentucky Derby.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
All right, we got some quick hitters, but before we hit the quick hitters, I want to remind you, Affinity Whole Health. My friends over there have been a patient there for 7 years. They've been fantastic. They offer personalized treatment plans to help you feel better, whether it's weight loss, low energy, low libido, want to add some muscle mass. They can do all of that for you. Affinity Whole Health, they provide expert guidance to help you safely reach all of those goals. They've got Ohio covered, Cleveland offices in Cleveland, offices in Columbus, Indy, Chicago. They're expanding everywhere. So don't wait any longer. Go set up your free consult over there by going to affinityWholeHealth.com. Tell them I sent you. They're my friends. They're good folks over there. All right, Schlegs, we got some quick hitters we're going to throw at you here. All right. Jim Harbaugh, former Michigan coach, won him a national championship last year, left and went to coach the Los Angeles Chargers. He was supposed to come back and be their honorary captain in week 1. Now, normally you'd say, hey, you'd honor a guy that won a national championship for you, but a guy that abruptly left afterward and has everything kind of tied to him seemed a little bit interesting. Shocked and surprised to see that. Now they came back and said, you know what? They're not going to do it because he wants to stay laser focused on the Chargers and everything they have going on. Is that the real truth?
I would say this. It's the fact, and it was funny, Sharon Moore was like, instead of taking the long bow, right, he decided to stay with the Chargers and be laser focused. I think it's a little bit of trying to separate the incidences, right? Why keep bringing more attention to it? You've already addressed it. You're in the NFL. You're not coming back to college football. It's fine. We won a national championship last year regardless. Charge it to winning. We're good. That's probably the story.
Well, I think that is the real truth, is the fact that they've received so much negative attention. Now, the stuff that's come down already, that was not even the Connor Stallion stuff, Schlegs. That was about the impermissible recruiting. And he has this thing like never lie, never cheat, never steal. If you stumble, apologize. Today, I do not apologize. But it's factually accurate. Now, we can argue whether the rules are ridiculous, because I think some of those were, but everybody else was abiding by them, at least trying to during COVID. They were not. So there's obviously that issue. The Connor Stallions and the sign stealing stuff hasn't even come out yet. And so all you're doing is drawing more negative attention to your program right now. And Sharon Moore's in a pretty tough spot. You just won a national championship. You had like 30 some odd seniors leave the program, so many starters, including your quarterback, most of your offensive line. I think they're going to have some bumps this year. And that's why I saw that. I'm like, I have no problem honoring Jim Harbaugh. I just don't think that that's the way you want to do it in the time. You got to let some things breathe a little bit in life. And then bring him back right after, to me, is a little bit like, you're going to name Nick Saban the field after him, like the year after he's gone. Like, let that thing open up, let it breathe a little bit, give it a couple years. And especially with this, because there's so many issues that are swirling around Jim Schlegs. That's why I was surprised that they did that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was surprised that they even mentioned that they didn't think through the process of and the backlash that would happen when they said that initially. I mean, honestly, you don't want any more attention. He doesn't want any more attention. Why even bring it up in the first place? Somehow they don't have a whiteboard and vet these problems. I don't know what's going on there, but somebody needs to talk to their PR department as to how you handle these things moving forward.
Well, Schlegs, you're the guy. I mean, your standard operating procedures, crisis management. I mean, you can do it all. You, Schlegs, should be the guy that they ultimately.
I can never work up there. No, that's a hard no. Thank you.
No, Schlegs, you said for enough money, you'd be willing to try anything once.
That's false. That's false.
Listen, Schlegs, you said there's honor in the dollar. Okay. And whatever that means, you take care of business, whatever it took. Well, thank you, Schlegs, for doing this first daily show. Got a couple hiccups, got some things going on, folks, but we really appreciate you tuning in. Content will be rolling at you daily. College football, things from around the state, things from around Ohio State, all the news you need. Thank you for tuning in this time here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.